saying how blown away I've been by this trailer. It's an absolutely fantastic trailer, so congratulations.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it.
Do you get nervous when a trailer is coming out? We've seen over the last week or so what's happened when a trailer gets leaked, but for you as a filmmaker, do you actually get nervous when the trailer is coming out?
Well, in some ways, when the trailer is coming out, you're always so immersed in finishing the film. I really, it's always coming out. When you're at the final stretch of making the film, so you can't be too distracted by it. But yeah, so you're always, it's kind of, like it's the cover, it's been taken off. And suddenly it's out there to the world, and you had it in a bubble, the film for a long time. So yes, it is a bit of a nerve-wracking, it is.
So we've all got a little bit of a feel now for the film from watching the trailer. Tell us a little bit about what fans can expect from Beast as a film.
Well, I hope they will have a fantastic ride through the savannah and bushes of South Africa, because we really were there deep in the forest doing this film to make the journey feel as authentic and real as possible, and then being confronted by the most realistic beast, hopefully seen on screen. That's my hope. There's a high marks, but I do believe that's what we are aiming for.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about how you became involved with this film. What was your first thoughts when you sat down and read the script?
I remember when I got the script from Universal, it was just, this is an interesting challenge, that to, first of all, having to create a fully blown, character, animal on stage, on film, created from scratch. I love the idea of working with Idris Elba. We have been looking for projects for a while. We have met a couple of times. And then it kind of was a great, the story felt tight, and so it allows you to do certain things as a filmmaker. I could, for example, which I did in the film, I have long shots, but not to the extent that the film gets any way slower or it actually gets more intense, because you're stuck in the perspective of the characters as this lion coming towards you. So I could push that kind of filmmaking element to it even further.
In cinema these days, we quite often see alien creatures from other planets and other dimensions as the villain. What was it like going back to something so animalistic as a lion, something that we do have on this planet, something that for a large chunk of this planet is actually an apex predator? What was that like going back and doing a film that has a more natural feel to it?
I think that was a great challenge, because at the same time, when you make an alien creation, nobody can say, "Oh, it doesn't look real," or whatever. It's a higher challenge, because people will even have to be perfect, the lion. And also, what you get to do is you get to study the lion and study the movements and the way it behaves, this behavior, which you spend a lot of time doing. And I think that was also, it's just having the opportunity of doing that, because I've been around animals all my life. I love animals, and lions have been kind of, of course, like for most people, a lot of people at least, it's the kind of the king of the jungle, and you always there's admiration and interest in their behavior, and it's also they mirror a part of our behavior, and I watched documentaries about it. I mean, they are incredibly brutal, they can be, but they also can be loving and beautiful creatures. So they kind of everything that in some way we can mirror in ourselves and the human behavior. But I also felt it was an interesting, because it's about a father trying to get his family back together, and the lion becomes a metaphor for that,
Yeah.
or the obstacle, you could say. And I think that also, so you can make this also on a personal level and a human level, an interesting story. And I like stories that are tight in time frame in a way, that don't necessarily go all over the place. And you are stuck there, and you are in a situation. And I always wanted to make that kind of a film, because they're hard to come by.
You mentioned that you've been around animals your entire life, and I volunteer with animals as well, so that's something that we've got in common. Tell us a little bit about the animals that you've had around you during your life and how you used that experience with this film?
Well, I have been around mostly, of course, domestic animals, dogs and cats and all that. But I also had horses my whole life, and I breed horses, and these are kind of wilder animals because we keep them in Iceland, we keep them in the mountains, and I travel on my horses through the mountains of Iceland every summer. So you get to know their behavior, and they can be tricky, they can be, and also. Any kind of animal I come across. One was in Fiji. I swam with sharks, like 60 bull sharks above me. I just love to understand and get into the psyche of an animal, and I love understanding them because then that kind of makes you understand more about yourself in a weird way. I think that's the thing, and I think I wouldn't be able to live without animals. I don't think that would be a very pleasant life for me.
Now, a really big question: how do you build a lion for screen? Like you said, we've all seen lions. We haven't all been out in the wild with lions, but everybody knows what a lion looks like and what looks real and what doesn't. So, how did you go about building a lion for this film?
Well, I got, of course, the best team of frames to work with me already from the beginning, and Henrik Prada is a fantastic visual effects supervisor. So we started digging into this. From the beginning, all the moments, like studying documentaries, studying any footage we could get our hands on, finding a lion that we kind of wanted to use as a model for our lion in a way, because it's a character. It's not only just any other lion; they are different, and there are quite few lions. There are few lions in the movie. It's not only one, and so this was the beginning, and then I had to lay out the shots because I wanted to shoot this in long takes, very specifically what the lion is going to do in the shot and how the camera is going to move, because this you can't change once you shot it. So we need to have somebody to do everything that the lion does, and especially when it comes to contact. And you've seen this on videos of, I'm sure, how this is done. But it is incredibly grueling. But we also wanted to do it all, and I had a great call with Inaritu, because he did the bear attack in the Revenant. So I wanted to if there's any tips he could give me, and he said basically to me, well, if you can't have a lion to make references, because I know you can't shoot a lion in a scene like that, but you have references for lights and stuff like that, then that's that would be the one thing that I didn't have, and so I went straight for that, because it's just with the way the sun comes off their fur and how they connect with the land, and because we're shooting in the real locations, now you have to match the lion into that. There can't be no studio looking, fakey lion, So I think, and we're still working it, we're still there, but it's starting to look really good. It's about every muscle, how the muscles move, how it breathes, how the hair moves. It's incredibly, mouth water, spits, all this stuff, and it's an immensely interesting job. It's a very slow cooking, but hopefully, like in slow cooking, the food gets good when it's done.
I mean, I was lucky enough a few years ago to go across and be able to see Weta Workshop working on projects that they were working on at that time, and there's so much work behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. How many hours do you think it will actually take for them to create a finished product of a lion that you're happy with?
This is like, because I have the hours and the manpower that they have been working on. I would have to ask them about that, but it's huge. I don't have it, but it's huge. I mean, there's so many people working on it, and there's so many hours, and I've been working on it, since before we started shooting. They were already working. They were doing, what do you call this, previs, and just the previs, takes time before we shoot. So which they kind of imitate the shots that I've kind of set up, and then the lion is made move into the shot, and then that is a part of how we develop it, and then they know, they can also realize what the cost is, and so all the way into now they're just doing sand, and the nails, how they pierce into the ground. Because for me, what is one of the most important things, and I hope it will come across, is the gravity of the animal, And I think often in VFX you lose some gravity. And I remember when I saw the first, because you mentioned better, when you mentioned the first Lord of the Rings movie, like seeing the horses run through frame was so powerful, with the nails sticking out, and I like, because I know that was real, and I feel like that's where you want to get VFX,
Definitely.
And that it feels like the weight of the beast is there, and hopefully that's I think is one of the biggest challenges in VFX.
Now, moving away from the lion, tell us a little bit about the human characters in this film. Of course, it's led by Nate, played by Idris Elba. Tell us a little bit about the human characters that we can expect to see in the film.
Yeah, so Idris Elba is basically a father that is separated with his wife, and then she gets ill and passes away. So he's in a little bit of trouble with his daughters because they don't feel like, or at least one of them is kind of angry at him because she doesn't feel like he has been around and supportive enough, and then he takes them on this journey that was originally a journey that their mother was going to take them to their home village of where she grew up in Africa, and there they meet a friend, which is played by Shelton Copley, who was a childhood friend of the mother, and he introduced her and Nate. That's why how they met. He's a white South African, and then they planned this trip to take the girls and show them the majestics and the lions and the animals in this reserve, and as in such movies, they get into a bit of trouble. And what is very important in the story is that the beast itself is created by poachers. It's created by because their prides and the lands have been attacked. It's not to put like the lions are evil and attacking people at all times. That does happen, and I did read some very interesting essays and articles about the truth of it. And actually, lions are more dangerous than sharks. They just don't attack Western people that much. That's why we don't know so much about it. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask, because I volunteer with wildlife organisations, how important was that for you to get that point across that this lion has become this way because of poachers rather than just the fact that it's an aggressive lion?
It's very important, and I push that element on the script more, because I think I wouldn't want to make a story about saying that animals are bad and dangerous. They are there, and they are in their own right to be there, and it's the problem when we start intruding their lives and getting into it. But it's a very complicated issue, the poaching thing, and trophy hunting and all that. It's a very complicated issue, but at least was hugely important to me, and we learned that the character Martin, played by Shelto, is an anti-poacher, and that's something that kind of emerges through the movie, and I think to get more, and I met some of these people there, and of course it's a complicated matter, because also the poverty of some of the people there is a part of it, and I don't want to get too much into the politics, but the reality is that this lion is bred out of that situation where his pride has been taken away, and he's been injured badly and left wandering, and I think you will see it towards the end of the movie. It's also very important how we live, So for me, it's the full circle of that story is very important. What it's about, and it's not about antagonizing lions at all.
Definitely, Baltasar. We've only got about 15 seconds left. So to finish off, what would you like to say to everybody out there who's just had a chance to sit down and watch the trailer for the first time?
Well, I would say, that the movie will probably, like even take you further, and if that gets them curious, then definitely go see the movie, because it's a hell of a ride, and hopefully it will be a good cinematic experience, because that's the way it's done.